Hello, everybody. It's just a minute past 1, so I'm going to go ahead and get started all by myself from the looks of it so far. So, as you should already know, these Zoom meetings, your attendance at the live meeting is optional, but you are required to watch the recording that I'll post after I make it because it's part of the learning materials. And I always give a lot of helpful tips on doing the assignment as well, so you will benefit from watching. Um, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the PowerPoint since there's nobody else here to see. I was going to ask if you guys had any questions, but we'll just go ahead and jump right in. So I will share my screen and we will get started. So we are going to be talking about Unit 1 today, which is placing visuals. And you might be wondering, why are we going to talk about this in a writing class? And also why I would choose this interesting shade of pink as my PowerPoint template. So I'm going to answer both of those questions before we get started. The reason that we're talking about placing visuals in a writing class is because outside of the walls of school and academia, most pieces of writing have some type of visual element, whether that be an actual photo or a graph or just some graphic design like a company's logo. Even coloring the text can be considered a visual element of design in terms of a piece of writing. So, one of the things that I really want you guys to take away from this class is how to make your writing visually appealing. So, of course, the writing itself is the core component of what makes your document effective. But starting with a good point visually is really important in order to not overwhelm your reader and also to kind of draw them in and make them actually want to read the piece of paper or the document that you sent on screen, whatever the case may be. And the reason that I chose this PowerPoint as this template as my starting point is because I wanted to just, I guess, drive home the point that visuals definitely play a role in how you perceive a document. So, for instance, you see this screen and you might expect this presentation to be about something feminine, right? Just because the color is pink and there's that connection with pink and femininity. However, if I'd opened up with this slide, um, granted, the white text isn't that great on this background, but it conveys a different message, maybe something a little more serious. But at the same time, it's a hopscotch board. So that's also kind of confusing because what would we be talking about that's relevant to children or hopscotch? So, one other example here, I think this is probably the best of the three. Placing visuals, I have included visuals on my actual slide. So there's some relevance between what I'm doing with the visual versus what's on screen with the text. So what you want to aim for is a connection between the image that you're choosing to put in your piece of text, and B, your placement should be appealing to the eye. And some people just have a knack for this intuitively. Other people really have to try and to move things around and try lots of different iterations before they can come up with something that is visually appealing. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to do that today. So let's now, I'm going to move my camera. Let's now take a look at how this plays out in a written document as opposed to a PowerPoint slide. In the document on the right, it's a pretty typically formatted business or technical document where everything is left aligned. You have, looks to be 1.5 spaces between each sentence, but generally speaking, we're not double spaced with an indents like we see in academic writing. And all in all, the document's not bad. There's some pros and cons. So the pros are that it's using short paragraphs, it's single spaced, and there is adequate white space on the page. The problem if you don't have adequate white space is that the reader becomes immediately overwhelmed and they're not even sure like where their eye should go first. So you want to leave some resting space for your reader. The cons of this document are that it's really boring looking and it's really difficult to skim because it doesn't have headings and there's no bolding or highlighting or anything happening like that. So it's just all these paragraphs and you don't know where to start and you could not possibly jump around to find what you wanted on your first read through. So let's look at something that's a little bit of an improvement. we have all the same pros, really. Short paragraph, single spaced, it has adequate white space. However, in this case, we have some added pros. So we have the heading, which is up here, the components of a business letter. That lets us know, like right away, oh, okay, that's what's to follow. And then there's bullet points. So that's breaking up the paragraphs and it's allowing even more white space to creep into the page. And it also makes it easy for anyone who's reading this to kind of quickly jump to those bolded words within the bullet points. So that's another really awesome aspect of this letter, is that not only does it have bullets, but it has bolding within the bullets. So this is much easier to skim and to draw out the main idea than the previous document, right? It's also just more visually appealing because it has more variation with the bullet points added and the bolding and the highlighting. So the only thing left here that's a con is that it's boring because there's really no design element. So here we're going to take a look at a Word document that I just randomly threw some items into to give it some visual pizzazz, we'll say. So you can see there's still a lot of text on this page, but because of the use of bullet points and short paragraphs and even the colored headings, this and the pictures, of course, this document is much more visually engaging right off the bat. Color tends to do that. So if we take a look at the pros here, it's all the ones that we've had before, but this one is also visually engaging. And there really aren't any cons to this particular piece. I'm going to exit out into the actual Word document where I did this so that I can show you the specific way to place a document in the text and have it come out looking at least somewhat professional. So we'll go ahead and switch. Actually, I have to stop sharing and then reshare. Okay. All right, so we'll take a look here. And so this was a 3-page document, and I really only made improvements on the first page for the purposes of showing you guys how to do it. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the second page, and I'll add in some visual elements, and I'll do that step by step. So first off, we have this really large paragraph, and we definitely don't want to have anything that long. So we can separate that right off the bat before we even put a visual in. And I'm just separating it randomly. Of course, if we were doing this for real, we want to read through the content and find a good breaking point, which may or may not have been where I just broke it. So now we can go ahead, we've got decent sized paragraphs, so we can go ahead and insert an image. And the way that you'll do that, you can either actually just copy paste it. Like if you've done a screenshot, you can usually just Control V right onto the Word document. Or if you have the file saved, you would go to Insert Pictures from your device. And, let's see, we'll pick just another picture of a house. And it drops right in exactly where my cursor was. So the first step in placing a visual in a way that looks smart and professional is going over here to your layout options. And you're going to want to choose tight, which is this second one in the first row. Once you choose that, you'll see right away the text has jumped up. It already looks better. It's not perfect, however, because we still have this word hanging out over here. And now this paragraph looks kind of large. So we can just use our mouse to drag and move it around. Something like this doesn't work well. We don't want to separate sentences like that, but we might think about, maybe putting it something like this. And the reason that this works is because we're actually making this paragraph seem less intimidating than it was when it was just a big block. And we've got a nice little heading here. So that's adding some white space. So it's not super dense right along the left edge of the picture. And then we only have a couple lines underneath. So that works really well. So if we want this image to have a little bit more flair, like the one on the left does, you can click it and then you'll go up to your menu up top. I have to move the zoom menu and you'll see picture format. When you go to picture format, you'll see that you can choose these different picture styles, or I call them frames. And as you hover over each one, your image will change. I think for the most part, This is a really nice look on a document like this, which is the drop shadow rectangle. It's the fourth one over on the very first line. You can scroll down through lots of different designs though and pick the one that you like the best and that looks the best, of course. So then our next step is going to be to add a caption. You can see underneath here, we have figure 1 residential design. So over here, maybe this will be figure 2 residential design, home 2 or something like that. So you'll click on the picture and go to references. Then you go to insert caption and you'll name your image. And this could be, a table or a graph or any type of image that or visual that you want to put in. You're almost always going to caption it. Not always, and I'll tell you the exceptions here in a second. So residential design number 2. And click OK. And that's going to put the caption perfectly aligned right in there for you. Really, really easy to when you move. Oh, no. Okay. So it doesn't follow you when you move, which means that you want to make sure that you have your image placed where you want it before you do the caption. So you don't have to drag and drop that caption. So this is definitely looking a lot better already. And that's the main thing I wanted to show you is when you place these images for unit 1 within the text, it's not just about putting your cursor somewhere and then hitting type or behind text or in front of text or whatever. There's a little bit of an art to it, and you should move your image around until you feel like it's actually helping the document's visual design, not taking away from it, not making it too busy, but actually improving the quality of the visual that your reader's seeing when they first look at the document. The instances where you're not going to use a figure, some of them are really obvious. Like over here on the first page on the top right corner, we have this logo, the company's logo, and it is not captioned because that would really, it just doesn't make sense. We don't need to have figure 1 company logo. So you use the captions when you have an image that is part of what you're talking about in the text and helping your reader understand what you're explaining, or in this case, providing a visual example of what the company has built as they're talking about their different experiences. So if we were going to add in an image, say on the third page of like a contractor with a hard hat on, shaking hands with a client, we would not caption that because that's just there for design purposes, not to actually convey any special information. It's just to make it prettier. So if it's exclusively to make it prettier, like a logo or, people working together, then you would not caption it. If it is aiding the explanation of the document, then you need to use a caption and place that image close to the text that's talking about it. So we wouldn't refer to figure 1 here on page 2 or 3. We want to refer to figure 1 here where it's located, so it's easy for them to go back and forth. Yeah. So that was the example that I wanted to show you so that you can definitely work on unit 1 and bring a little bit of creativity to it and really start understanding how to work with visuals. So I'm going to jump back here to the PowerPoint. And as we already noted, this document in particular has got all of the right elements. So your assignment for unit 1, which if you have not taken a look at it yet, you're going to be choosing any image or photo of your choice and then creating 2 of your own images by using Microsoft Excel to generate bar graphs or line charts based on the data that you were provided. And then you're going to take those 3 images, so your 2 different graphs that you've made, and then 1 photo or just any image that you decide, and you're going to drop those into the Word document that's attached to the assignment. And when you drop them in, you're going to follow those steps that we just did, where maybe you're going to add a picture style or a frame to it, and you're going to ensure that where you place the document looks good and that you've added a caption. So that's the nature of the assignment. It's a short assignment. This is just a 1-week unit because it's really just preparing you to do this throughout the course. Almost all of your assignments will ask you to include visuals. So I want you to know how to make them look good when you do. Optional, in case you were not aware of this, you can always submit your work early for review and feedback from me. You should always do that no later than the Thursday prior to the assignment being due. And in this case, it's due on a Sunday. Actually, in every case, your assignments are due on Sunday. So it's just that Thursday prior to the Sunday due date. Questions? Again, I think at least one person joined me in the meeting. Do you have any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing anything pop up in the chat, which is fine. You guys can always email me with your questions, so that works just as well. And last but not least, coming up. So as I said, this unit is preparing you for all the other units in terms of the visuals. And our very next unit is visual design. So you're going to be creating a brochure where you are required to use visuals, and some of them are decorative and others will convey information. So you'll need to do all of the things that we just talked about and that we're working on in Unit 1. Also, in our Zoom meeting for Unit 2, which will be next Monday, I'll post that on the announcements. I will be going over some writing and grammar tips just to help you guys out. If anyone struggles with writer's block, I'm going to offer tips for that. If you guys have any particular grammar issues that you have questions about, like you don't know, when do I use a semicolon versus a comma? If you have a specific thing you want me to address, you can either ask me during next week's meeting, or you can send me an email and I'll make sure to prepare something to go over that particular issue. And there is one message in the chat, so let me just check that. And asking if I can restate the graph assignment. Sure. So really the big picture of the assignment is that you're placing 3 different visuals inside of a Word document, like I did the example of. However, the way that you get those 3 visuals is, one is easy, just pick any picture that you want. And then the other 2 are graphs that you will create using Microsoft Excel. And you'll see in the assignment description that there's 2 data sets talking about, one of them is about Social Security beneficiaries, and the other one is about employee attendance across 2 different groups. So you'll look at that data, and then based on the learning materials, which include explanations of what types of graphs work best with which data, you will choose a graph and input the data into Excel and then create the graph. There's a very straightforward video about how to create the graph in Excel in your learning materials. So I'm not going to cover that here because it would just be repetitive. And once you've got the graphs created, then they just become visuals that you're placing into the Word document. So I hope that is a helpful reiteration of the assignment. And I'm going to exit my PowerPoint and just hop back over into the meeting. Okay, so that wraps up the Unit 1 meeting. It was pretty brief simply because the assignment itself is really brief. And I just wanted to let you guys know why we're doing this. I think it's always helpful to understand the context when you're working on an assignment, rather than just like, this seems, kind of ridiculous. Why are we working on this particular thing? So now you know, and you can reach out with questions whenever you have them. And that's a wrap for now. So take care and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.